Hello, and welcome to the Fanfiction Book Club podcast, a weekly podcast that explores the good, the bad, and the cringy of fanfiction, hosted by me, Poppy, and my lovely co-hosts, SG.
Hello.
Ollie.
Hi.
And T-Stan.
Hello.
Every month, we scour the internet to bring you 4 different fanfic reads, and our theme this month is Twilight! Check out our website at fanfictionbookclub.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at fanfictionados for the full lineup of stories for the month and to connect with us on the web. So, Twilight.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh boy.
Twilight.
Yeah,
that's a book we've read. in our youth so long ago.
If you listened to our podcast last month where we picked Twilight out of the hat, you can hear our collective groans and squeals of, oh god, we're really doing this.
Well, you know what? I was like, last month I was like, oh, the cringe, but once we got into it, I was really curious to know, A, what the people were writing, and B, how recently they were writing it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, when did Twilight come out? That was when we were in middle school, or were we in elementary school when it came out?
Junior high,
Twilight the book came out in 2005, and the movie came out in 2008, I think. 2008, 2009.
That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. Wow, it was. But Twilight kind of had like a resurgence on the web a couple years ago. Not even. It was maybe like last year. Suddenly everyone was into Twilight again.
Why?
I have no idea. It just was random. And then Twilight from Edward's perspective, Midnight Sun, just came out in August this year. So I think more people are more into Twilight at the moment.
So I was one of the kids who read the leaked version of Midnight Sun from way back when.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
No.
I read it. Well, because when Poppy and I were younglings, we were really into Twilight.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a tour. We did a tour where we went to Port Angeles and Forks and stayed the night and like went to some of the places where Twilight things happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, we totally did that. It was a really fun trip. And I think, didn't we go to La Push too?
We went to Port Angeles, we went to Forks, we went to La Push.
Yeah.
Funny. So for those of you who don't know, I am on TikTok, and a bunch of people that I follow have suddenly started doing Twilight content. They started doing Twilight cosplay. And so I decided to tell that story, SG, of when we went to Forks. And so if you want to find it, you can find my TikTok at Sammy K. Lynn for my
link in the description.
Quick 60-second version of that Twilight adventure.
Oh my goodness. Like we're literally just like brushing the surface of everything that happened on that Twilight adventure.
Were you trying to make a documentary or something?
We were trying to make a documentary and we never did.
I lost all of the footage.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so long, Pop. What are the chances?
Yeah. It's like on my like 3 computers ago computer type situation.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a while ago. And we were archiving stuff as well then as we are now.
Yeah.
So Poppy and I, like, we know the Twilights.
I think it's safe to say that all of us were twihards.
I hate that word so much.
But you were, T-Stan. Embrace it.
I may have gotten swept into the excitement.
Yes. No, back in the day, were you guys Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Jacob.
Yeah,
Jacob.
I don't know. Poppy, who was I into?
I think you were Team Edward just to be a contrarian.
I think I was.
I used to be Team Jacob until I grew up And I realized how much of an F-boy Jacob was. He's a fedora tipping milady nice guy.
He's also like 16.
I know, no, but he thought that Bella owed him something because he liked her. But she was like, dude, I love Edward. It's always going to be Edward. Stop. And he kissed her without her consent, and then he manipulated her into kissing him again by threatening to kill himself. So...
Oh, that's what? Right. Yeah.
I did not remember that at all. Oh
well, you know what? The third book was really boring. Like
the third book did not do Jacob any favors.
No, I mean, in the second book, they kind of made you like him a bit more, but I was never really sold. I wasn't really sold on either of them.
Yeah.
But I thought of the two, Edward. But if I had my choice, it would be Emmett.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was because
I can see where that comes
I
from.
like a muscly dumb jock. I'm into it. I like a boy I can control.
Is such a big teddy bear, I think.
He is a big teddy bear, and I was into it.
Well, I think everyone here knows who Ollie was into.
Oh, yes. Milady.
I was in love with Jasper.
She was in love with Jasper. In love.
Yeah, it was intense.
Kind of like your emo boy, and back then I was just like, yes, I'm into that.
Were you into actor Jasper as well, or just character Jasper? You were into all of it.
I think the actor really sold me on Jasper, and then my just love bloomed from there.
I mean, it was 2008. The emo boys were in,
and the hormones were raging.
Oh god,
hormones were a volcanic eruption.
Oh,
are we just traumatizing you, T-Stan?
Phrasing, please.
Oh my goodness.
No, I just try to forget that moment of my life.
So I will do a head nod to Twilight, and that in reading Twilight, I discovered Jane Austen's novels, Pride and Prejudice and the like. And that's what like got me into Old English literature. And then I've just been like a bookie ever since. So that's like
connection to make.
That is like the one thing that Twilight, like as a prepubescent girl.
Didn't you read Wuthering Heights because Bella read Wuthering Heights?
No, I did not read Wuthering Heights until so much later. Like that book, like I wonder if there's Wuthering Heights fanfic, because that storyline is insane.
Sure there is. I'm positive somewhere.
I'm going to put that on the list.
There is. Oh no.
Have any of you guys read Wuthering Heights?
No.
Not in a very long time.
Okay, it's a very long story, and it's about multiple generations of these two families that just mess with each other.
That would be why I haven't read it in a while.
So to get back on track.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've covered what we know about the fandom. Do you guys now, in 2020, do you guys like Twilight?
No.
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 I liked the first movie. I think the first movie is the best movie. Then they all go downhill from there.
Say it out loud. That's my favorite line from the movie.
Oh, the first movie is an indie film, and like it's got a lower budget, and it's like you can tell that everyone liked what they were working on, and then once it blew up, everyone was like, Robert Pattinson was like, this is not what I signed up for, but now I'm stuck. So, so I like Twilight. I'm not as big a fan as the sequels.
The last movie. What about the books? Do you guys like any of the books now as adults?
Same answer.
Oh, just the same thing. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I remember I went hiking with someone, and I tried to explain the plot of the last Twilight book, and we kept passing by people on the trail and they were giving me weird looks. So I'm like, yeah. And then this girl has a vampire baby, and then they gotta cut her tummy open right before turning her into a vampire to save the baby. And then this guy that liked the main girl imprinted on the baby, which means he wants to be with her. So now he's gotta wait till she's grown up to be with her. And he's had a thing for the mom of the baby. It was just like, this book sounds insane.
Yeah. And
Explain it.
the other thing about Breaking Dawn is that kind of half of the book is an anti-abortion, like, PSA. Like,
You know, I didn't pick up on that.
yeah, because it's like half of the colons are like, we need to get rid of this baby because it's literally killing Bella, and the other half of the people are like, no, it's just a baby, and like, it just, I don't know. Like, as a kid, it didn't bother me because I didn't really understand it, but as an adult, I'm like, oh.
Well, that'd be interesting to read back and see if the author, if that argument was fair with the characters, like there was an equal number of characters who were pro and against,
I mean,
or if
could be
it was really skewed towards, you have to have this baby.
could be argued the other way because Bella really wanted to keep the baby, and it's her body, you know, she can do whatever she wants with it. But it was like it's a huge plot point in Breaking Dawn, like giant. So I don't know.
Well, that's interesting. I did not even think about that. I only ever thought about the like weird age difference between Bella and Edward. And what this 18-year-old girl had within her being that was so enticing, other than her blood, to make him want to be with her.
Well, in this fan fiction that we read this week, it's argued that all he wanted was a challenge. Does anybody have anything else to say about Twilight?
In general, I think we can move on. I mean, there's so much there.
Yeah.
What else we could just say as a starter.
Okay. So, fanfic we're discussing this week is The Best Way to Spend Eternity by DobbyRocksSocks.
That's such a cute name.
Adorable.
It's on fanfiction.net. It was written on... Oh, it was published on the 4th of July. It's got almost 10,000 words. It's 9,937 words, and it's a romance. Tagged as a romance, and it's a Bella and Jasper story. The author's note on here is, AU, probably not for Edward fans, includes some sexual references, although they are relatively minor for the most part. And here we go. So the summary of this story is, Edward left her in the forest, but that doesn't mean she was alone. When Bella is turned by Victoria, only Jasper remains. Will she let him take care of her? So it's the events of New Moon, where Edward has broken up with Bella, and he leaves her alone in the forest. And so Edward leaves, and Bella is a broken ball of sadness on the forest floor, and I don't know how else to describe it.
Good description.
And Victoria hears the whole thing, and she's like, perfect, this is the perfect way to exact my revenge, because for those of you who don't know, in Twilight, James, who is Victoria's mate, is killed by Edward. So Victoria wants revenge, and so she decides to kill Edward's mate. But she's like, oh no, I'm not going to kill her. I'm going to turn her into a vampire so that she can spend an eternity on her own. And then we cut over to Jasper. All of the colons have left already. Jasper feels terrible because he feels like it's all his fault that the colons have left, because he was the one that tried to attack Bella. and she got a paper cut and was bleeding, and he lost control. So he's decided that he's going to leave the Cullens, because he can't ignore his instinct anymore and be a vegetarian vampire. He's like, this isn't who I am. I should just embrace being a vampire, go off on my own, and eat humans, basically. It's revealed that him and Alice aren't really mates. They're just kind of they're just like best friends, and they love each other, but not in that way. And suddenly Jasper gets a text message from Alice that says, look after her, Jasper, she'll need you. And he's like, what are you talking about? Who gonna need me? And she's like, oh, you'll find out soon. And that's it. That's all. And he's like, that's ridiculous. And then he goes, he's
Very
about
unhelpful.
to get on. Very unhelpful. She's being very vague. And so he's like, F it. He goes and he gets on his motorcycle. He's about to drive away and he hears something. It's like, whoa, what was that? He goes to the front of the house and there's Bella. Vampire Bella. And he's like, what happened here? And they talk, and she is really upset with Edward because he left her in the middle of the forest. The cool thing about this fanfic is that Bella is her own independent person.
So nice to see.
Yes.
So nice to see. She's standing up for herself. She's super upset with Edward. And Jasper's like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting. And he asks if Bella wants to with him on his road trip. Since she can't go home to Charlie, she's like, yeah, okay, what else am I going to do? I don't know what to do with myself because I'm a new vampire and I have no one to help me. Then they go and they start, they're on their motorcycle adventure through America, and they feed on some bad dudes, some criminals. Bella's being humans in this AU, but only bad people. She doesn't want to harm innocent people. Then eventually they go and meet Jasper's old friends Peter and Charlotte, and they all get together and have fun like a little family. And Peter, his like vampire ability is that he knows things. So there's just things in the world that he just knows. And he knows that Bella and Jasper are mates. And Jasper's like, that's dumb. What are you talking about? And
so quick question. This is for the true Twilight fans.
Uh-oh.
Are Charlotte and Peter people that he knows from back in his baby vampire wrangling days?
Yes. He was the army and the Confederate army, which like, ooh. And he got turned, and then him and the person who turned him were like building an army of newborn vampires, and Peter and Charlotte were some of the newborn vampires who escaped off together.
Okay. I couldn't remember if Peter and Charlotte were like really from that newborn part of Jasper's life, or if they were just like members of the Volturi that were inserted into the story, because that seems like a thing people do in the fanfic.
Poppy coming in here with all of that Twilight knowledge, because I was just like, a couple OCs. All right, whatever.
So I just happened to recently watch like the lives of each of the Cullen vampires on YouTube.
What? Wait, what?
Happened?
What?
Happened?
You just happened to watch that?
I told you guys before, so the people I'm following on TikTok have started making Twilight content, and that got me wanting to look into Twilight again without reading the book. and I've always found, like, the Cullens, like, pre-Twilight history really interesting. Because, like, they lived, like, all these interesting lives. Like, Jasper was in the army, and he was creating newborns, you know? Like, Rosalie, like, she was attacked and beaten by her husband and her husband's friends and left for dead.
That's right.
Oh my god.
That did happen.
She goes back after she's bitten and kills each one of them one by one. Like, I'm sorry, I want a short story of that, please.
Wow, no wonder she's like, okay, I did not go that deep into any sort of lore with Twilight ever.
Yeah.
I mean, but those were, if you read the books, then you knew that stuff, because Rosalie talks about it.
I have a mind like a sewer grate. It just, everything goes through it.
Poppy and
Maybe
I had
some leaves stick, but other than that.
Poppy and I had so many conversations about the lore of this book, this series, that I don't think I could really forget any of it. There might be, like, fine little things that I don't remember, but I remember all the main characters, like, their big history plot points. Remembering the, like, side characters' names is a little difficult, but
like, I didn't remember that Jasper was an empath.
You didn't?
Yeah, until I read this fanfic, I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't use it as much as they could in the book to their advantage.
Yeah.
But they made it seem like a really weak skill.
The main character.
I know, but I feel like your side character, if you have that many characters, like, they need to be strong characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so where was I in the plot?
So we were at where they were visiting Peter and Charlotte the first time, and then Peter tells Jasper that Bella is his mate.
Yeah.
It's mate.
So, Bella's his mate. Jasper's kind of brushes him off, but then they spend a few weeks there, and in that time, Bella and Jasper get closer, and Jasper's like, oh, Peter was right. She's totally my mate. And then they go off, they leave again, and they go to this hotel, and Jasper gets a text from Alice that says, tell her tonight. And he's like, what? Why would I do that? And she's like, she'll be receptive, just tell her. So
receptive is such a gross word.
I know.
But it's like so they go and they walk on the beach, and Jasper's like, hey, so here's the thing, you're my mate, and Bella's like, I love you too. And so it's unclear on if they go back to the hotel room or if it's just right there on the beach, but there's an implied sex scene that is the cringiest part of this entire fanfiction. When I read this fanfiction twice, and the first time I read it, I kind of skimmed through that part, so I was like, all right, that's a little much, but it's not, like, explicit or anything like that. But so they do that, and then Jasper gets a message from Peter that says, I'm back here. Something's going to happen in 3 days. I don't know what, but you just need to be here. And so they go back, and it turns out that what's going to happen is Cullens are coming. And up until this point, Bella doesn't want anything to do with the rest of the Cullens, because Edward broke up with her and left her totally vulnerable in the woods, and everyone else just left without saying goodbye or anything. And Alice knew it was going to happen. She's super upset with all of them, except for Jasper, obviously. And then so they're all out on the back porch, and the Cullens arrive, and Edward's like, and so Edward and Alice know Bella's a vampire, but everyone else sees her and is like, huh? Bella? What, you're here? What happened? And So Edward's being a possessive jerk, and he's like, Jasper, he's like, you turned her as soon as I left, and Bella's like, no you don't, and she yells at him and tells him exactly what happened, and she stands up for herself, she stands up for her love, and everyone's like, whoa. And
so that was a great scene, but my only qualm with that scene is, isn't Edward a mind reader?
Yes.
Can't he, like, so if he figured out that Bella was turned, I'm sure at some point Alice would have thought she was turned by Victoria. Why would he jump to the conclusion that Jasper did it? That just seemed really weird. It's
probably just because Edward's upset that Bella doesn't want him anymore, so he wants to yell at Jasper because Bella
I don't know.
wants Jasper.
I just feel like he wouldn't get that angry. I feel like he'd just get, like, really passive aggressive and try and backstab them from the shadows.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he would just get moody and leave, but this is a fan fiction, and people can do whatever they want with their fan fiction.
Very true. What am I saying?
So it turns out that none of the Cullens knew that Bella still cared about them. Edward had told all the Cullens that Bella didn't want anything to do with any of them, and to leave, and that's why they left without saying goodbye. And Bella does forgive the Cullens except for Edward, and Carlisle's like, you guys are still children, you can come live with us if you want, and Bella's like, I'm not ready for that at all. Maybe eventually, but not right now. And so the Cullens leave, and Bella and Jasper live happily ever after. The end. Oh, what did you guys think of story?
Well, I mentioned this before we started, but I'll say it again for our lovely audience. I read this story more than once on my own free time, so it was pretty good.
Yeah.
When I first read it, I saw that it was on fanfiction.net. And I was like, oh, great. What's going to happen? But I was pleasantly surprised. I think for the length of the story, I think they got a good amount of content in there. And it was very pleasant content that I was able to read. And there were only like a couple points where I kind of cringed. But they weren't like bad. I think it was just like a choice of the author thing. Not necessarily because they didn't know how to write something, which is fine because I'm not going to agree with everything an author writes. But I liked it. And I think the reason that I liked it, even though it was on fanfiction.net, is because it was written recently. Because the style really matches what people are writing now on like fanfiction sites versus what they were writing back in 2005.
Oh god.
And 2006 and 7 when Twilight first came out. So I was very pleasantly surprised.
I was also a little scared. Yeah.
And I liked it mainly because, like, it wasn't, a typical Bella and Edward or Bella and Jacob story. It was about Jasper. And I kind of felt like the author was, like, fulfilling her own fantasy of Jasper and then, like, making Edward, like, the bad guy in the story. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I read this, in one sitting and didn't hate it.
Yeah.
Didn't hate it?
I thought I wasn't gonna like any of the Twilight stories, but I was pleasantly surprised with each story I read. So
yeah, when this was my pick in case that wasn't clear, and I found this like really fast, I just opened fanfiction.net. I typed in Twilight, and it was like on the first page. And I read it, and I was like, wait, why is this really good?
I know, on fanfiction.net of all sites.
You keep bringing that up, but isn't, like, last month, like, your pick was on AO3, and it sucked. Like, I don't know why.
I don't know that it sucked. We were just not the right audience for it. I think for the right person, it would have been great. We just weren't the right people for it. I mean, it wasn't badly written. It was just a weird story.
I primarily use fanfiction.net, and I have found some pretty dang great stories on this website.
What's about a trailer park? What was that?
I'm not counting that. I'm not counting that one as a good story. Oh my god.
I mean, 2 out of 3 so far isn't bad.
Yeah.
No, fanfic's fine. I just like to dog them. I mean,
yeah.
they're all better than what's that? Than Wattpad, yeah.
Oh god.
I know, we haven't chosen any of those yet.
No, I don't even look at Wattpad as an option. When we did our beta test,
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
we read. I still have the audio for that, and we might put that behind a paywall if the people want it. I won't just release that to the world, though. That was a weird one.
Anyways, discuss characters. Okay, so the characters here. I loved what the author did with Bella. I loved that the author gave Bella her own voice and was able to stick up for herself. Because I don't think that she really did that a lot in Twilight. I liked what they did with Jasper. I don't know if I like what they did with Edward.
Hashtag not my Edward.
Yeah, I mean, they totally changed Edward's character, but not in a way that I particularly enjoy, but, I mean, overall, I think the characters were great. I loved Peter and Charlotte. Like, I don't know anything about them in the, canon book, but
I think all we really knew about them was that they were Southern. But, yeah, I enjoyed the characters. I like that, like you said, Poppy, that Bella was, like, a bit more plucky, and she stood up for herself. And Jasper was as smooth as ever. Because he's Jasper.
Yeah.
Love the Southern charm. My darling.
Oh god.
You kind of said darling like every other sentence. Like,
I was okay with it. I was here for it. I was here for it. I'm like, Jasper, call me darling, please.
Yes, Southern accent pet names. Do it.
Yes, all of the Southern accent pet names.
that Southern accent pet name, though.
Yes. I was totally fine with that. The one thing, like, writing-wise, that I didn't enjoy in the story, and I don't know if it bothered you guys, but they would kind of, like, switch topics in the story, and they wouldn't do, like, a visual section break between them. So they'd be, like, in one scene, and then they'd move to another scene, and it wouldn't be completely apparent in that first, like, sentence that they went somewhere else. I was always, like, asking myself a question of, like, ooh, but I thought they were here because they didn't do that visual break along with the, which isn't a huge thing, but I do appreciate it when authors do that, where they give you some sort of indication that we've switched scenes or locations or time. Yeah.
There's a lot of dialogue, and then I think that was, like, what threw me off, because there'd be, like, that little scene change, and they're going right into a conversation.
Yeah.
And then that was, like, when I got confused. I'm like, oh, wait, what?
That was a little jarring.
Yeah,
moments.
but, like, the vision of what's going on is kind of, like, an abrupt change.
Yeah. But it's a short story, so I don't know if the author just didn't think they needed to pay too much attention to that because it was so short. They're just like, I just need to get these ideas out. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like a 12 book long.
No.
Thousands of pages, you know.
Yes. An anthology of stories and whatnot. Yeah.
It wasn't Lord of the Rings.
No.
No, it was
We do not need to describe the gate in 3 pages. They haven't even reached the gate, but we know exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, that didn't bother me all that much. But yeah, I did get a little lost here and there, but it wasn't. It didn't take away from my enjoyment of the story.
Yeah, not a deal breaker.
It totally wasn't a deal breaker. But like in terms of writing, that's like the only thing. And there were like a couple misspelled words, but that's just using computers.
And there was the little slight cringe to the lead up to the bedroom scene, but
yes,
it was very short. So
that was some slight cringe. Oh, do you guys remember? So at the end of this story, am I getting my stories mixed up? I think it was this one where Alice knew all of this stuff was going to happen and Bella got mad at her because of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Alice is like, well, the alternative would have been horrible, so it's better that I did this. And Bella's like, well, tell me. And Alice is like, I don't know if you want to know. And then she told her, and the alternate ending, which I think is interesting that the author didn't just like follow through all of the books. They just took the story up to where Edward and Bella get married, and then he's gonna bite her to change her, and then he just drains her.
Yeah, he just kills her on
and that's like what would have been the alternative if the story followed through from the rest of New Moon, and at the end where she gets him back from the Volturi and they carry through. It would have just like gone to midway through the last book. Or not even midway. That would have just been the beginning of the last book, right?
Yeah, because it's
like the first quarter of the right at the beginning. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting that was like the point where Edward messed everything up.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah.
And Bella's like, oh, I see why you didn't tell me anything. And she's like, all right, I forgive you for...
Cool, I get it.
So for that scene, did Alice say that in front of everybody?
Yes.
How awkward is that?
No,
yeah, that's pretty messed up.
They were like reacting. They were like, "Oh my god!"
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, Poppy, like you were saying, hashtag not my Edward. I just feel like Edward is he's such a calculating person. It seems like from the stories, like he's very measured in what he does. I feel like he would have like a 12-step revenge plan that would not involve directly saying what his problem is with the situation.
He's not hot-headed at all.
No.
Yeah, but he was also created in the book series to be the perfect man.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, he's still 17.
Right,
I think being 17 for 100 years? Couple hundred years?
150
can mess with your brain a little. Just a smidge.
I think it could, but at that point in their history, it seemed like he had things together a bit more.
Yeah, he was mature. He was more mature than he.
But not to say that he wouldn't like fly off the handle. I just feel like his flying off the handle would be like evil teenage girl plotting. Yeah. You know? Where they're just like, I'm not going to tell you.
George.
Yeah, he's Regina George. I'm not going to tell you what my problem is. I'm just going to bully you from the shadows until I feel better about this situation. I feel like that's more Edward. I feel like Jacob would have been the one to go, like just fly off the handle and have a reaction like this.
Again, teenagers.
Yeah, but teenagers. And I mean, this is how the author chose to portray him. It's interesting to me in fan fiction, what characteristics authors choose to keep and not keep when they pull a character directly from the fandom. Yeah. And it's really weird because sometimes I'll read a fanfic and I'm like, I really wish that they would just like stick with the character that the original author of the story created and just like write these scenarios with those characters like specs in mind instead of changing them. And sometimes I'm totally fine with it. Like in this story, they changed Bella and I was like, yeah, this is a big improvement. But I guess Bella didn't have much to work with in the first place. So pretty much if you do anything to her that's like logical, yeah, it's an improvement on her character because she's like a self-insertion. She's like the ultimate your name insert here.
Basically, she's YN.
She's yin.
Oh, God.
Have you guys ever read yin fanfics?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
I've seen like Tumblr posts about like...
Uh-huh.
But no, I haven't read a whole
God,
thing.
Imagines? Oh, God, Jesus.
Imagine. Yeah.
What's Imagines?
Well, they're basically just like tiny fan fictions, but
there you
like,
go.
But it's like, imagine Harry Styles is in your kitchen and
oh
he's
God,
like,
no thanks.
Hey, your name? Do you want some? Or I don't know. Like it's just like that. Thing.
I'll admit, got real big into those during high school. Thankfully, grew out of it.
Good.
I didn't.
But yeah, I have read too many. God, too many.
I didn't even know that those were a thing until I think like a year ago. And I don't know what fandom I was reading, but I was just looking to see what was new in the fandom. And I saw that there was like a plot that I wanted to read. And I was like, oh, this takes place in a coffee shop. This is great. Because you know me, bookstores and coffee shops, those are my like favorite types of AUs. So I started reading it and I'm like, why is it saying you instead of like a character's name?
Yeah, I found with those kinds of stories, it's always very like, of course, obviously they're trying to make the reader the protagonist.
Yeah.
But because that, there's no personality to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no personality
to anyone. So it's so dull.
It is. I was interested because it's a new form of writing. Because I've read like choose your own adventure stuff, which is like a U, and that's like a great use of that form. But I hadn't encountered that in fan fiction yet. And I read it and I was getting excited, but then because like you said, T-Stan, because it's like so they don't want to like take you out of the story by giving someone characteristics that might be like, I don't do that. It becomes dull. And I didn't appreciate I didn't appreciate that style of writing until like reading how some of the I'm sure there's great ones out there, but the one that I read I wasn't crazy about, so I haven't touched them since. But the actual like published stories, like choose your own adventure type stories, they do a good job of it. But they're usually more action based. And I'm sure like 90% of the Your Name fandoms are like, not Your Name fandoms, of the Your Name story or the U form stories are like, you're getting with a fanfic character that everyone has a crush on.
Yep. And
is what I'm assuming. That's like the majority of it.
Romance.
The blandest of romances. We should read some Your Name.
Oh, God.
Things for the fandom. We'll keep it PG, though. I imagine it gets crazy. Does it get crazy, Tristan?
It does. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See where else that world goes.
After the purge of Tumblr, like what, that was 2 years ago or something?
Yeah, the Great Purge.
The Imagines are pretty much the only thing that survived that. Because they're text.
Okay, anyways. Does anyone have anything else to say about the writing of this fanfic?
No, I mean, I could read it, and there was just like that little nitpicky bit.
Okay. So how well did they stick to the fandom? I mean, they stuck with it up until New Moon, and then they completely went to an alternate universe, which is fine. Great. Let's see.
Do we want to read some comments?
Oh yeah, let's read some of the reviews on this.
I think this should be a regular thing that we.
Yeah, we keep forgetting. We keep saying that we should do this, but then we keep forgetting it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mama 2 fans said, "Great job, love Bella and Jasper." Belle 1 said, "Again, I like how nothing was forced to create this connection, though Jasper did get slapped with a reality check from Peter." There wasn't a lot to this story, but I enjoyed their gradual and growing love for each other, even though it wasn't over a long course of time, smiley face. I liked Bella's restraint when it came to Edward. Oh, and the arm bit later was good. I'm not sure what the written for portion is about, though. Super slimy. Even if she saw what the future holds for Bella, it doesn't excuse her. There were so many options to make... I think they were talking about Alice. There are so many options to make it work for Jasper and Bella, even when Edward's leaving, especially considering that Alice, knew how things would be bad, even for Emmett?
Emmett?
I just don't really like Alice, LOL, thanks.
Yeah.
How would it be bad for Emmett? Is Emmett or Esme?
I would assume
that would be Emmett, right?
I would think Emmett. Yeah.
Emmett. I don't know what is bad for Emmett. I don't know.
Did they mean bad for them?
Maybe. Just says EM, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Baby Sis 64 says, This was an awesome one-shot chapter story. Thank you for sending this to us. Wow. So Bella knew that they were mates before Jasper did. I wonder why was that? They are happy and this is good, right? I'm glad she stood up for herself right away with the Collins and Edward.
Confusing, but I get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Everyone else says that it was great, and they wish that it was a little longer. Let's see. Does anybody have any final thoughts on this?
Story.
Does anybody have any final thoughts on this story?
I think it was good. I think it was well written. Like SG said, and some of the commenters, probably could have been a little longer. But also, it was just a fun little fluff read. It's nice to be done with in like 5-10 minutes.
Ollie, any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I also enjoyed a light read. It was, under 10,000 words, so I read this in the morning. I actually read this, on The Voice. I set it for my phone to read it to me in an English accent of all things. So, it was a nice read.
Right on.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked this story a lot. I'm very glad that I stumbled into it.
Yeah, good pick, Poppy.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
It made me happy. So what rating would you give it out of 5 sparkles?
Yes.
So I would give this 4 sparkles out of 5. Yeah, I thought it was pretty dang good.
That's a good rating.
I think so too.
One of the highest ratings we've done.
I know.
Yeah. I would give this also a 4 because of Bella's independence and her exploring life as a woman and love and not having to deal with Edward.
Don't lie, Ollie. It's a 4 because it's about Jasper.
Yes. That last sparkle is all about Jasper and all his darlings, which are super cute.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a 3.5. Just because it takes quite a bit to get a 4 in my book.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked the length, I liked the fluff, and I really liked Bella's attitude. And obviously I read it more than once.
Yeah.
But I don't know, still not quite at a 4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I am going to give this story a 3. But I'm really picky. So a 3 is probably your guys' 4.
Oh.
So I enjoyed it. I didn't reread it multiple times. But when I did read it, I did enjoy it. And Bella was great. Jacob was great. Or not Jacob. Jasper was great. Jacob was non-existent.
He wasn't even mentioned.
Non-existent.
My only issue was I feel like that wasn't Edward, but the author can do whatever they want with characters in their
That's
story.
fair.
It wasn't a bad Edward, it just wasn't my Edward, and that didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
3 sparkles.
3 sparkles out of 5. All right.
Sparkle.
Yeah.
Still pretty good.
But those are all pretty good. We got 3 and above,
Yeah.
which we don't do for some stories.
Yeah, no. Right. Thank you for listening to the Fanfiction Book Club. Our pick this week was The Best Way to Spend Eternity by DobbyRocksSocks. You can find this story and more of the author's works on fanfiction.net. Theme song is Funkorama by Kevin MacLeod. You can find more of Kevin's music on incompetech.filmmusic.io/artists/Kevin-MacLeod. Works discussed on the Fanfiction Book Club are not our own. All characters mentioned belong to their original authors. Until next week, bye!
Bye!
Bye!